out of the Su-27UB, he was to come face to face with Captain Mal McNair, who had just demonstrated his CF-18 Hornet. The two former enemies were soon into pilot's talk and couldn't wait to have a guided tour around each other's aircraft. Mal was relieved to see that the Su cockpit was relatively old-fashioned, but the Russian policy at the time was to standardize all fighter cockpits so that any Russian pilot could transfer from one type to another with as little interruption as possible. The Hornet, on the other hand, was equipped with the very latest glass cockpit, with most of the pilot's information transmitted on computer screens. So how did the Sukhoi compare with Western fighters? Mal McNair.
I think it compares pretty favorably with Western fighters as far as airshow performances. As far as what it would do as a weapons platform, that hasn't been proven yet, and hopefully won't be proven in the future. But in my personal opinion, not the opinion of my government, I think the Western fighters still hold an edge in the avionics and the weapons systems we have on board.
So how do you do the Cobra? Well, come in level at 220 knots with 85% power, pull back with about 35 pounds of pressure on the stick to override the angle of attack limiter. The aircraft rears up with its underside becoming a huge air brake. Push the stick forward and ease in some power to return straight and level. If you make a mess of it, press the small white button on the top right of the control column, which engages a system that will automatically correct the aircraft, whatever its attitude. The Su-35 was designed as a follow-on from the basic Su-27 with much better dogfighting capabilities and was the first derivation aircraft to have an unstable integral triplane or three-wing aerodynamic configuration. It has a new glass cockpit with a vastly uprated and completely new digital fly-by-wire control system, which is quadruplex, using 4 channels in pitch and 3 in yaw. It has a totally new radar, allowing 15 targets to be tracked at a time, with 6 that can be engaged at a range of 225 miles. It also has a redesigned tail cone with a reshaped tip housing a dielectric radome rather than the usual brake chute cover, giving it over-the-shoulder radar coverage. The aircraft is capable of automatic terrain following and avoidance, and it can attack ground targets without even entering the battle area. Apart from new uprated engines, the Su-35 has new tail fins, taller than the 27UB, and each one houses an auxiliary fuel tank. Finally, the Su-35 can carry a very long-range anti-AWACS missile to knock out the enemy's combat control system. Yet another derivation of the basic Su-27 is this 27IB Platypus fighter bomber. Anatoly Ivanov climbs up the nosewheel ladder into the spacious cockpit. The cockpit itself is surrounded by titanium armor some 17 millimeters thick. It's thought that the original concept for the aircraft was as a naval trainer with its side-by-side seating. An altitude pressure of 7,000 feet is maintained in the cockpit up to 30,000 feet, which means the crew don't have to work with their oxygen masks on. The Platypus is equipped with air-to-air refueling, which gives it a very long range, and the crew can even lean back on one of the seats and take a nap on a long endurance flight. The Su-32FN, confusing, isn't it? The Su-32FN is an updated version of the 27IB, with a beefed-up main gear having 2 wheels per side and a double nose wheel. When it arrived at the Paris Air Show in 1995, it had flown non-stop from Moscow with no in-flight refueling at all. Every country has its display teams, the British with the red arrows, the French with their Patrie de France. The Russians are no exception. One of their teams is the Russian Knights. Their leader flies the Su-27UB conversion trainer. The rest of the team fly a mixture of single-seaters and two-seaters. Their show is not as flamboyant as the Reds, but it doesn't need to be, as it's still unique. The pilots are chosen from the 234th Prokhorovsky Guards Fighter Regiment at Kubinka. The Sukhoi Su-27 Aerobatics Demonstration Team, the Russian Knights. The modern Sukhois can carry a variety of weapons, but the